Why does a game that has everything get so little attention? I will not only answer your questions, but also show you everything this game has to offer. So stick around, because it's actually insane. What game am I talking about? Enshrouded, of course. And I can just hear you thinking, didn't that come out like a year ago and instantly get overshadowed by Palworld? Well, yes and no. Palworld is the first reason Enshrouded didn't get as much attention as it deserves, as Palworld did become available right as Enshrouded did. And since Palworld is known as Pokemon with guns, this sure got a lot more attention. I made a whole separate video about Palworld if you're interested, but this emphasizes once again why a good launch date is so important. And it reminds me of Titanfall, the game everyone loved and yet never really succeeded, which came out right in between Battlefield and Call of Duty. But just like with Titanfall, there are more reasons. The next would be that Enshrouded is still in early access, which is where some people would just stop watching this video altogether, thinking duh, no wonder it gets no attention, probably not realizing that Palworld back then didn't fully release yet either. That's right, Palworld is also in early access. And with everything in Enshrouded already working as intended, as far as I can tell, it certainly doesn't feel like early access to me. It seems like the developers just want to release a complete and polished game at launch. Applause, please. Yup, it's not all that common anymore, I'm afraid. But other than these two reasons, I really don't understand why Enshrouded doesn't get more attention. They're doing good when it comes to player numbers. Heck, they just reached the 4th million player. So can somebody please explain to me why I never hear anybody talking about this game or even mention it in any list of games like top 10s and such? It's truly surprising, especially if I look at how polished this game already is. You know that feeling when a game completely consumes your life to the point where you can't stop thinking about it, and every single time your mind isn't occupied with doing other stuff for just the tiniest moment, it automatically reverts back to this one particular game? Yeah, it's already on that level. I don't even know how to explain it. I guess it has a good balance of everything. One minute you're fighting a big boss, the next you're chilling by a fire. Then you're out on a quest, next you're expanding your base. Then you're exploring dungeons, fighting skeletons. Next you're home cuddling your newborn rabbit. That's just way too cute. It just has everything. Some people call it a survival game, but it's only light survival really. It doesn't get tedious or super realistic to the point where it becomes annoying because you have to pee every 5 minutes or die because you forgot to eat 2 seconds too late. Nah, it's more about exploration and base building than surviving. I highly recommend you play with friends, if you have those, as you can play with up to 16 people at once. Of course you could just play privately with whatever party size you prefer, as this game works by creating servers that people can join. You can then give them different levels of access locked behind different passwords. You can also change some world modifiers to create the experience that you prefer, but I honestly suggest you stick to the default at first, as that seems very well balanced to me. Now bear with me as I try my best to go over all aspects of this game, alright? It's co-op, has an open world, NPCs to unlock, crafting, exploring, gathering, fighting, quests, various enemies, skill tree, stealth, base building, looting, farming, boss battles, magic, and animals. He dead. Yeah, quite a lot, but I told you it has everything. Layered armor, weapon upgrades, music, collectibles, environmental hazards, lore, crafting on mass scale, emotes, day and night cycle, elemental damage and weaknesses, dungeons, pets, food, gliding. Yeah, I suppose you get it by now. Remember, still in early access.
But wait, Dusk, you said this game has everything, but you never mentioned that it has a story.
There actually is a story. You're the Flameborn, the hero that has to get rid of the shroud that is plaguing this world. Yeah, that's about as much as I can remember. Although I did mention lore, and there's a bunch of that. Regardless, this game is all about the gameplay to me, but I have seen some people fascinated with the story on Reddit, so I suppose it has enough of a story element. It surely does for me, although it's more of a figure out what exactly happened in the past kind of story, but regardless, it has one. Now since this game has so much, I can't go over every single thing without making a video a million, bazillion, trillion hours long, so I picked the most important ones. Starting with the combat, because I'm sure y'all want to know what it's like, you freaking savages. Violence is not the way, okay? The fighting is simple but cool. There's stamina, mana, and of course your health bar. You can parry with well-timed blocks, or just block as long as your stamina doesn't run out. Dodging is only available after animations finish, forcing you to time your attacks. It's nowhere near as hard as Dark Souls or any of that stuff. Well, that's what I tell myself until I run into the green swords guy. But all enemies have unique attacks, requiring different timing, making it so that you have to think at least a little bit about your approach. There are several weapons to pick from. Most of them are sword, daggers, staff, mace, axe, wand, hammer, bow. And yes, most melee weapons are available in two-handed form as well, because I already know y'all are ready to compensate for something. Holy shit, this thing is huge. There's also boss battles. You need to do these to complete certain quests and to progress in the game. You see, later in the game you can start farming these for loot, and you might also end up like me, collecting their heads like they're freaking Pokemon, hanging them all over your walls. Talking about farming things, farming is another aspect, and a rather good one at that. It's highly advised that you make somewhat of a farm. You don't have to go as crazy as we did, but it's nice to have some resources growing. These provide you with stamina boost, attack boost, health and more. And this part of the game will satisfy all the people that like the cozy farming games. You know, the Stardew Valley addicts. It also gives you a reason to make somewhat of a base, even though you could of course live like a peasant if you prefer that. I suppose some people aren't into building very much, but the potential for different creations is endless, and a lot of creative things have already been built. The building is nice as it allows you to build whatever you want. The occasional clipping items into walls here and there is allowed, making it so that everything is possible. And once you've built all you need and added the necessary details like furniture, you'll experience the amazing vibes. Or you can just build a giant if you want to. Yeah, I know you want to. And if you go out and explore, you'll find different biomes with different people and materials, tying progression to locations and NPCs. This and the Shroud prevents you from racing through the game faster than a speedrunner who knows every glitch known to man and does blinded speedruns for a living. The NPCs aren't just standing around either, as you can decide yourself how far they can walk from their assigned bed, making your base feel somewhat alive. Does it start to make sense why I think this game is so good yet? Now before I continue, I already know there's going to be that one person in the comments hating my thumbnail, hating my title, saying,
"How dare you call this game the best? It is obvious that it has flaws. You're obviously clickbaiting everyone."
And you're obviously a little too salty. I guess everyone has a different view of what best would be, and no game is perfect, but let me tell you buddy, to me, this one is pretty darn close. The only things that I ran into were that the lock-on system messed up my dodging, because when I dodged sideways, it rolled into a curve, still ending up close enough to the enemy and getting hit. So I ended up simply not using that. I do have to mention that I play with mouse and keyboard, so I'm guessing this is more of a controller feature. Not that big a deal to me. The other would be some balancing when it comes to weapons. Ones feel frustrating to use due to the slow projectile speed and limited range. I would honestly rather have half the damage but double the speed on those, although I didn't put any skills into the one tree, to be honest. The one-handed mace attack speed is too fast in my opinion, as it should be in line with other one-handed weapons, but for some reason it isn't. There's a skill that fixes this by making the other two one-handed types faster, but this still makes the maces the best single-handed weapon in the game because you could just save those points and use them somewhere else. And that's about it. Considering that the full release is planned for spring 2026, this might all get fixed or changed before then. I highly doubt the developers end up seeing this video, but I'd like to suggest they do one last thing to put the cherry on top. And I'll admit, this is basically just me requesting a feature, and that would be a good endgame loop. Something along the lines of dungeons that you can do repeatedly to gain loot. I don't think I have quite made it to the endgame yet, so maybe this already exists. Who knows? The hollow halls appear to be kinda like that, but the levels don't seem to scale both enemy and loot wise. Anyways, I trust their judgment. A good endgame loop would be amazing. Please make it happen. Now earlier I told you that the vibes in this game are great, and I would like to show you. Here's me and my friend playing music together, because you can actually find songs and instruments to collect and then actually use them. I'd like to take this time to thank the developers for making such a great game, and with them doing a fantastic job listening to the community, I have no doubt that this game's full release will be fantastic. I recently saw that they were nominated for a certain game award, and I really hope they win as they truly deserve it. Now, if you didn't already think that this game looks amazing, here's the roadmap on what's still coming. I would estimate that about half of these are already in the game, so I guess they're actually on schedule too. By the way, did I mention that they created Portal Knights as well? Well, they did. Cool little game. Looks like they learned a lot from that one. If you have suggestions for the game, leave them down in the comments. Who knows, maybe the developers will see it. And while you're down there, don't forget to show some support to the channel. And with that said, thanks for watching.